Wait, là? So, dunfi. Anyway, what a what an experience. Today, I didn't type anything. I should not try to have a minimal guide of what we are going to talk about. Ah, but we we don't like that stuff here, so I will pass on that opportunity right now. Let me. Oh my god! Wow. Today, today I also forgot to change the title of today of the today about my hair. Anyways, anyways, at least we are here, I guess. What a, what a long time since the last occasion that we came to this place. It has been indeed quite a long wait before getting to anything like this. So yeah, who knows? Just who knows? I have lately having some very complicated stuff. I wouldn't say to deal with, but rather to think about in general. It's been pretty interesting to see that something funny happens when we sort of forget what we are doing in life. It's allowing the question to appear out why we do things is in some way an entertaining action, not because it truly is by itself something as entertaining, but rather because it allows for everything else to add more color. Let's say what we get to have once we are capable of processing the different questions that we pose to ourselves. There is something fundamental in the process of growing up. There are many stages, many, I think, depending on any kind of theory that you want to use, you might get to different positions that try to explain how everything that is related to growing up, so to speak, works. But something that is, I will say, fundamentally the most common piece among all of them is how we as a species get to, I don't know if become better is the right term precisely, but we would simply adapt ourselves to this thing called thinking. We have proficiencies about the stuff. We become proficient at walking. We are, I don't know, I guess bipeds in some way, mostly because of our social norms, about how it seems to be such a necessity for us to be bipeds, and even in that bipedal modes of being, we lose access to anything that is related to the arms in terms of physical movement and freedom and whatnot. We learn to stand up, to never again go back to using our arms in normal ways of movement, let's say. The same thing happens with We learn to think, we learn to stop, look around, and be capable of processing ideas, and we lose the ground in which we began on life in general, and that's just the existence in a more simple term or simpler term. And it isn't actually something that I will say it doesn't need to be classified as something negative to realize that we are indeed just separated from what was the beginning. But the funny thing is, we, as I said, at least when we try to look for it, we gain those chances of setting our feet down, so to speak, and looking around from a different viewpoint. There are many other questions that we have still not tried to answer at all, or tried to even ask ourselves. We we possess in this. I have heard this expression. I wouldn't say it's a proper one. Post modern times. I wouldn't say we are the post modern times already. I I think we are there is a concept called accelerationism. Okay, that's very much fitting for trying to call ourselves the ones who live after the postmodernism and whatnot. I don't think that whole era has already passed to try and say it in a different manner. So yeah, um, this postmodern moments of life, at least so far, that's something funny that I have seen. It's weird to talk about a lot of stuff, but in actuality, what we are mentioning in most of the developments that we get to experience in these fields, most of the stuff that gets said, most of everything in general, is not truly something not incapable of revolutionizing the whole field, so to speak, but rather it's just very momentary. What we are talking about might lose all of its importance in a handful of days or in a handful of weeks, or I think it's an assumed reality. Most of what we experience loses its importance after some months. Unavoidably, almost nothing remains when the years pass, and the farther away we try to look it from, unless we are capable of creating anything that remains. Not because we have a need for that in terms of you can come at this from a viewpoint of oh yeah, this is about creating ideologies and things and apparatuses that affect the reality from now until eternity because we needed to immortalize the soul. No, it's just we also have the quality of just doing things that last for more than a brief instant. We we are very entrailed in the instant and we are very interested in doing instantaneous stuff, but everything else is pretty much separated. What we could see, we are not enjoying being, we are just being in a basic manner, and it's stressful, I guess. That's the main conclusion I get from all of this. It's very stressful. There are always many things that we have to deal with. I one of the things that I have heard about and that I like to yeah, I guess to mingle with as an idea is how we should not truly have the possibility of discussing anything related to ideal figures, and the possibility of enjoying using our time to make sure that we survive in this world, because reality might not allow for such things to happen. What I find is just we're pretty much lost in a sea of accepted pain. I don't know if that is the correct terminology, but basically, what we have is most, or more than anything else, lack lacks of interest of the capacity to look forward and to try and make sense of what we are. I have a you can hear it in many different translations or in many different languages and ideological speeches. That's the proper term. You can see it that the discussion exists within different parts of life. How we do not seem to be doing the average person at the very least. If we are to assume that somehow we have found a different re- response to this issue, the average person seems to not be capable of enjoying being, not because it is impossible for them to be anything. We are not impeded from being, but rather because it's impossible for anyone to properly decide on what we are interested in being. Actually, having to deal with being has become a sort of issue since now all that we have around us is preoccupations and create artificial worries that makes us lose sight of everything else. It's very interesting to see it because I was mostly trying to tie all of this with there are other questions that we could get to ask ourselves. There is there is something that I have been trying to go through. This is what I was this trying to mention in any way, and that was it seems a sort of fundamental part of life that we get to just enjoy being and that we get to be capable of moving towards better state of I wouldn't just say consciousness. It's too much of a vague word in a sense to bring it down to yeah, better states of consciousness, whatever that means. Nowadays, so something funny that we have gained from all of these different discussions has been how we have transformed and disfigurated what is consciousness. Now it's not just a thing that we have or not just something that we get to enjoy. There is the consciousness that we share with everyone else. There is the consciousness that we needed to possess about certain ideas. It's not consciousness just as a matter of being capable of thinking. It has become the consciousness of everything that is somewhat related being. Everything possesses a consciousness, everything is to some degree conscious. Even the most inanimate object has now gained its own place of consciousness instead of what we can call the world of ideas. We love to go around and make everything look like it's related to these discussions about we we can develop ourselves into more understanding creatures. Everything is part of the whole consciousness of the universe, so we can define it as a sort of artifact that just possesses enough of itself to be what it is. And we're not really getting anywhere, we're just making baseless definitions that seem to just in this whole side of theological arguments and whatnot, just feelings for what is a possible interpretation of reality after all. And I don't think it's directly bad, but it's just sad that we are losing so many chances of having anything like that. I believe that we are moving farther and farther away from anything that is real. We are just distancing ourselves more and more. Well, I have seen, I don't know, I think I, the best thing always is to blame anything else. But in actuality, there is this whole plane of ideas that seem to talk about how, in many diverse directions, we are separating, we are segregating ourselves from the rest of the world. Not because we want to do it, but rather because it's the only choice that we get properly go for, since everyone else is also in a way doing the same thing. We have created more and more borders and limitations between all the things now. We get to enjoy as little freedom as possible for the sake of making sure all things are contained within a particular context and within a particular set of rules, and we have lost the interest in just basic, only abide guidelines for these now presented opportunities to make everything just function as one thing and nothing else. I like it's complicated to talk about it without getting overly political, I guess, but it's unavoidable to see that we are losing what was the freedom of previous eras in these diverse ways of trying to say that yeah, we only get to enjoy doing one particular work and we only must dedicate ourselves to one thing. There is no more plurality in existing, there is just the necessity to dictaminate what we are in the most precise way to make the least noise when we are given to. It's not even an opportunity. The moment, the brief second to explain ourselves to the rest of the world. As in, let's say it like this: we are positioned now in a machine of ideas, of ideologies, and whatnot, in which what happens is everyone unavoidably gets a second of sound, a second to speak up, not because what they have to say is important, but because we are constantly checking between ourselves to see if everyone is sort of aligned with what is the common norm. We are not possessors of the liberty of being what we want to be. We are possessors of the liberty of fitting in within any of the roles that we can see are the most acceptable ones within the given system. And instead of that, what happens then is when we get asked, it is not because they are looking, we are looking in general. I will denominate it more for a general self responsibility more than an external one. We are not truly looking for an explanation that will make ourselves be the most fulfilled. We are just interested in having something that makes it sound rational enough. We have there is this. I have been losing a lot of time trying to get this side of the rational. I I remember finally something made some clicks a little back. I already went through the. I don't remember who was the writer, but it was on pure logic basically, and that book is very interesting. It itself doesn't actually contain many theories. In most cases, it just talks about how logic tries to validate itself on, I don't know what I said. I hope I said correctly the title, on pure reason. On pure reason is a very useful handbook to remind ourselves that yeah, we might be over articulating everything. We have created such a necessity for all the proper connections between all the other things, for all the segmented pathways that everything needs to be taking, that we are forgetting what is ourselves in the process. It's no more anything related to a play of enjoyableness. It's all created for the sake of fulfilling what has been the commitment of previous generations and what seems to be now our way of also continuing the tradition of wow, yeah, everything is in some way related to these previous creations that we have. We have already come to a point in which no system is worth taking down. At best, there is this idea of assimilation that exists between or within any explanation of society. We are not here to destroy societies anymore, we are just here to assimilate the best of our capacities, all that they have. And then, if something gets lost in the way, we can say that issues happened, but our objective itself is not to try and just eradicate what they are. We try to blend in the most that is possible. Uh, Meaningless amalgamation of substance or complete lack of substance, rather, since nothing is truly interesting. Most people do not get to live lives, and that is something that I haven't seen. I don't see in any particular level a better level of doing in terms of enjoying being alive. We can persuade ourselves that we have better degrees of happiness and whatnot, but what I find is just these other instances of nothing else but the realization that yeah, what all the things that we have, the system that we live in, the people that we surround ourselves with, everything else is to some degree, I would not say dangerous as in threatening, but untrustworthy as impossible of always failing, because that's the condition of life. And because of that, we never get to have the certainty of enjoying being. We never possess the capacity to be ourselves to the utmost of our own capacities because there is always this underlying discussion about how everything might crumble out of nowhere and everything is risky and all that we see and all that we might experience could not be so interesting in other contexts, and I don't truly believe it's just an issue of, yeah, here we are, continuing the tradition, and that's it. It's more of a, we don't truly need to wake up in a certain way. There is no responsibility to see that we could be dealing with a better designation of life, it could be better to try and exist, I guess. We are just destined to maintain ourselves in this one particular pathway and not much more. And I don't know, I think it takes just a lot of time. That's my honest conclusion about all of this. It takes a lot of time. We are presented with many options. There is a very fun idea about how every single day you are given all the options that you could. You always have to choose, even if you don't want to choose, you are still choosing something. By deciding to quote unquote not choose, you're already making a decision, creating a statement, so to speak. And the other reality is due to how much we needed to choose all the things that happen in our lives, it's better to remain contained within the level of the self rather than to try and confuse our own existence with everything else that might be influential by just us in the beginning. We would be risking a lot more if we saw any human as something more than just themselves, because the potential for discussing the different systems that exist within the world would become overly complicated. Now it stops being an issue about how, yeah, I see stuff, but also how everything else is affecting me, how everything else might be part of what I receive and what I also communicate to the outside, so to speak. I do not need to lose my time or to look around and try to make sense of what I experience is if we all of us understand what's the main story. We don't we don't need to truly be communicative with anyone, since to some degree even the most basic expressions are now completely identified and completely posed or transformed, I guess, as things that mean the most that they can. We have such an overabundance of explanations for all. It's so funny to see how we have lost ourselves in that sense of, yeah, yeah, I am because my community makes me, and my community is because my society, and the society is because of the, I don't know, the county, and the county is because of the whole state, and the state is because of the country itself, and the country is because of the global placement of our own subjectivity, and blah blah blah. I don't really know if it is that useful to stay sort of within such a basic ground of understanding about reality, but at least we seem to be capable of using it for an explanation. It compared to not having nothing, at least we we can believe that we are safer because of it. So uh, less losses are better in a sense. I I have to reckon if there is something that I have to reckon. I have identified a lot of what seems to be just chaos. Introducing chaos to the whole formula of life is better. The issue is taking so many risks makes life itself be undoubtedly harder to control. Even more, it makes it unenjoyable, not because it is itself completely unenjoyable by default, but rather because we sort of, let's say it like this, chaos is as much of a chaotic thing in any kind of game based on luck as it is on life itself. There is no proper capacity to control chaos within existence because it's not designed in a way in which we can have a control over it. We can just adapt to the more aptly with all the chaos that we might find in our lives, or obviously we can take just less chaotic routes to, in this case, existing in general. And sadly, trying to say, yeah, you know what? Maybe radical interest in other things, radical desires in what might be the potential of myself, the potential of anything that I might create, anything that I might want to do, is by default a lot more chaotic. And I can accept sadly that, yeah, it's not such an easy to commit to idea. It's very good to just mention it. It might as well lie within that realm of the satisfaction gained by knowing that you have found a possible solution to something that you might not even be capable of deciding if it is a problem or just a possible escape route that you might take if you were to finally someday, let's say, accept that life is not as enjoyable. That there is, I see it from this perspective of, yeah, I have known people myself throughout the years that have entire lives planned if something were to fail. They have created entire systems to explain, not to just explain, but rather to make sense out of what they are, what they will do if something were to go wrong, what they will try to make happen, what they will make sure they do with their money and what they do with their families and how they roll and how they try to ensure that other people are happy and whatnot. And it's, I don't know if it is the best word, but it's sort of crazy work to see that we are so willing to spend so much of our time living in these fantasies rather than living in life itself, feeding and making even more complex fantasies about everything that could be if if things were to go right. Let's say, for example, something that I hear at this point in very similar forms from very different sources. If I were to win the lottery, I would rebuild my life this way. If I were to this concept of making it, if I were to make it, I will strive to make these things happen. If I were to be capable of gaining this one privilege in life, I will try to create this one advantage, not for the sake of, and this is an important distinction, not for the sake of creating a followable path, realizing that chances exist, that they are very close being 100%. So it becomes a necessity for us to start before it becomes a real issue deciding which directions we're going to take in life. No, it's more related to this whole thing of okay, I don't really know what might happen, but if this somewhat nice thing were to happen, I would be content myself. If this one tiny thing were to occur, I might be a little bit more satisfied if somehow I are lucky random event in my life, in my career, in my experiences, in my relationships, in my games, in everything. That's what I'm trying to talk about. In any kind of aspect, we have sublimed or sublimated ourselves to this position of okay, only if it happens by the most uncontrollable possibilities, we might get to do better. We might get to have something nicer. And I think it's quite sad. It's not a, I don't know. Maybe it's a less risky life. That's completely true. But it's still a not so worth living life that one of waiting for things to. It's all the eternal wait. It's the eternal hopes. It's there is something that I have heard enough times already also to realize we like to talk about hopes and dreams, and we like to draw within the bunch of things that are actually achievable things, completely impossible delusions in terms of, oh wow, yeah, maybe the one time I play the lottery, I get to win the jackpot on my whole life. Those 180 turn, and I become a completely different person. Maybe if tomorrow, if by trying, I get lucky, I will roll some better rolls in this one game, in this one machine, in this one particular. That's the funny thing. Even in gachas, we're talking about that stuff nowadays. It's all so boring. We are relying so much on everything else. We are to some degree something funny even that happens within all of that as a short observation, even in the stuff like what are the delivery apps and whatnot. We have created systems to randomly these Skinner boxes basically of oh wow, yeah, maybe I keep pressing this button, at some point I might get a bigger reward. If not, I can at least keep pressing the button because it might as well go in a good direction, or it increases the chances of going into a good, desirable direction. And I think it's not hopeless, it's just sad that we are not actually trying to enjoy anything. We are just being ourselves and letting things pass. Letting things pass by us more than anything else. I think I have started. I don't know. Perhaps that's sort of this tragedy of being so tied to my own era. One of the few disadvantages of not being immortal is that you don't get to see how everything was, but it does feel like, at the least in the present times, we are having less and less interests in doing anything. It has become rarer and rarer for anyone to try and actually talk about committing to stuff, to apply themselves to doing something, to achieve something, to not even for the sake of the ego to be someone, but to be someone who we are proud of being. That sense of being is what we are disregarding so much. We we have even, and that was something so funny that I saw some time ago. This whole discussion about how pride is bad and how being prideful is such a risk and such a dangerous thing to allow into our whole life. We have started to introduce many excuses and I don't know if shapes is the correct word, but many different ways to try and talk about how rather pointless it is for us to ever commit to being happy. We do not have the right even to talk about being a version of ourselves that makes us proud. And proudness has become an undesirable quality in some way. And I don't know, I not that it is completely the most important attribute to have, but rather, how can we truly have nothing of that at all nowadays? That's the issue. How can we not even allow ourselves to have a little bit of interest in being capable of understanding that, yeah, if I can be proud about what I am doing, I might be capable of doing it with more interest. Not not from a sense of, oh wow, yeah, I get to boast about my actions. I get to feel that what I am doing is good, and I get to justify to myself that what I am doing serves any kind of purpose, that what I am trying to go for works or contributes to anything else besides myself. And even that gets mixed up with pride into this whole sense of, yeah, I am fulfilling something. The fulfillment of the soul is so lacking that anything that might come close to it is now getting attacked as a possible dangerous level of pride, of proudness, and vanity. And I don't know. I guess what I can say for 1 second is sadly, it isn't out of nowhere. It does come from a place of reason. We have had quite a lot of issues related to believing in ourselves in the past. So suddenly we haven't needed to eliminate a lot of pride from the world and to think less of ourselves. But in the process of doing so, that's what I consider the proper post-modern era. In the process of doing so, we have lost what defined us in general. We have lost the possibility of discussing or of considering ourselves without feeling bad about doing it, without thinking that it is wrong of us to try and be happy. So we have moved too far from any proper development. We're only going for not not directly bad things. We have just allowed a lesser way of being everything has gained that level of simpleness that makes life a lot more comfortable. But it's within that comfort that we are losing everything else. It's not a life of commodities, it's just a life of fake. Fakeness all around. We get treated more and more every single day like we are so incapable of operating in the world. We get to have less and less power over what we can see, what we can say, what we can do, who we can talk to, where we deserve to be in, and everything else becomes decided for us before we even get to see it. So it's this. I don't know. I just think it's an unavoidable idea. It is one of, okay, do you wanna live a life in which you're just sitting, or do you want to die standing? That's the sort of parallel that I am trying to draw. I don't really know, man. I think it's just depressing that we are limiting ourselves so much. We could have more. We could have better in general lives. And we could even learn from ourselves a lot more. We could discover that, yeah, we are not so unequipped for life, even if we didn't get to properly discuss any for actual required skills. We are not so unapt for being. We are not so incapable of sitting in any place, of getting to any position. We are not so incapable of reaching for those proper dreams, for those proper hopes and interests, and getting to live a life that we can say was useful to dream, was good to think about. In comparison with what I talked about already, we have everything else related to just praying to some degree, believing that the best course of action is just relying on something completely outside of our control. Within the systems that we already inhabit, there is no possibility for us to get anywhere else but where we are in, so it's just appropriate to today and not much more to just subdue and look in not even in a sort of proper answer or debilitated prey manner, but rather in a way of starving dogs who just get to eat the other animals who also die around them. And one day, a very big animal might die in front of us, and that day we might get to feed ourselves, and at best we might get to survive for a little longer. But even if we were to do that, we have offsprings that are also put into this same cycle. We do not, we are not moving towards any different direction. We are just prolonging what's suffering in some ways. If that's something complicated, it's even more to. if if it had to be a whole discussion, it would be so fucking impossible to properly mention without feeling bad, I guess. We are not completely sure that what we are here for right now is not for suffering, since everything else is some way related to it. Even in the saying of, okay, what's the true meaning of life. It cannot be suffering. You cannot have a bad ending. It's love, supposedly. So, love is the alternative. Interest, desire, lust, attraction, all of those things related to this good sensation are the alternative. I don't know, man. I think most people will be capable of also understanding that. It's not such an abstract concept to say. It's not, even if in general, define love. Tell me how you are completely sure that you love someone who you believe you love. Which thing was it that made you be sure 100% that you love the person that you say you love? How can you be so sure that what you are saying, that what you are stating, that what you are trying to offer is a completely valid explanation for love that everyone else can get, even if we do not have that, even if we have in no way, in our possession, anything of that sort, we still get what is in general love. But it should suffice to some degree. You don't need a, it's, let's say it like this. I think what should happen would be very much in the lines of what basic things like the respiration of the body exist. But in that very same sense of, okay, you don't need to understand to the highest of your capacities how to properly breathe, how to be capable of breathing with enough oxygen intake and mm, what is it? CO2. I don't fucking remember what's the bicarbonate. I don't remember. But basically, proper outputs and inputs of oxygen and the CO2 and whatever and being good at that and understanding that yeah you might need to take double deep breaths or double long exhalations. No, just letting the body breathe should be the same thing with love in that sense, if that were to be what we are here for. And so far it hasn't been let's say in the last, I don't know, 2 million years of history, animals don't get to enjoy living just because they love one another. They still live in very feral states because they can be so pushed to action by this very same love. In some cases, it is that more than anything else, basic animals lose their lives. Even more so ourselves, how many sacrifices we have made in the name of love, and how many things we have lost because we said that it was better to lose them because we loved them as they were before than to allow them to continue existing in any other manner. I don't think love is exactly the justification that we are looking for. But I don't know. Anyways, give me 1 second. Uh, I need to take my what's the word? Your meeting. That's what I need to do. So yeah, give me like 1 or 2 minutes, probably. We will be back. Continue with this. I don't know. I guess I'm like around the middle of the development of the idea or so. Anyways, uh, welcome back to us. Surely, uh, needed pause. Now, after after I'm done sitting, what are we? Was I think actually this explanation of the board, but I don't know. I think it's unavoidably something that we could talk about for hours on end. How I seem to be very interested in discussing law, but we don't really we don't really get to have anything like that. We have I remember hearing a very accurate description along the lines of we have romanticized so much what is affection, what is this warmness brought to life by what's a positive reception of rest that we started to rely to damaging degrees in all of these things. And now we don't have any more the possibility of talking out ourselves. We're just lost within the discussions and the observations, everything else that is not us, that is not related to what might be. I'm not saying, I guess, that there is no possibility for love at all. It's just we have overcomplicated it, so it becomes more and more an impossible to reach a goal. Since more than anything else, we don't really understand to begin with anything ourselves. This lack of I was trying to think about it. I guess what we are lacking, if it is something that isn't law, if it is something that isn't hate, not any of those directions have already proved themselves to not be the correct ones. Okay, what are we needing more? This sort of proper truthfulness, not just the movement for the passion of oh yeah, let's discover everything else that is out there. Let's this to some degree, for example, let's spend decades of our lives investigating how this completely insignificant part of existence works. This whole, I don't know, it's dangerous what I'm saying, I guess, in that sense of there are some things that might be called more worth it than others to focusing on. I don't think we need to spend that much time talking about what we are in terms of community, what is our place in terms of an individual. We can agree on rules. We literally have already constructed societies upon them. We don't really need to be discussing every single day that we all actually get to agree on them. Not in the sense of, oh well, yeah, never again talk about the societal rules and whatnot, but rather in the sense of, wow, we truly are that disconnected from ever trying to mention that sometimes this is such a common thing, even we are debating amongst ourselves, not because we want to reach any better conclusion, just because we want to see if we are on the same page. That's what's happening. We have created so many things now that seem necessary to have, that what we are doing is losing decades of our life, recapitulating with others. If we are indeed all of us standing in the same level of comprehension, and I think it beyond being just insulting, outright insulting, to have to spend so much time on something of that sort. It unavoidably is also something incredibly annoying and tedious to deal with. We like to discuss how love is good and how the passions are nice on it under a proper measure, but are we truly enjoying being if all that we have to do is validate who we are, is accept who we are, is fit who we are within the context, is validate someone else? It's too much of a worry about all of those things. And obviously on the opposite end, also accepting that we can't reject others, we can't deny anything else, we can't be oppressors of other things. We have no right, so we must stay always in this artificial balance that is just chaotically inspired in terms of there are always things to be fixing. The moment in which we get to properly realize that, yeah, we all understand what being means, what being constitutes. If we are forced now to continue talking with one another, then we might need to go back and check, is this other definition also on the same page as that previous one? Or is that one already agreed by everyone else? One? Are we sure that we are in the same page? And after that, we bring onto the formula even the slightest degree of incongruity. Incongruity? I don't remember how it is pronounced. But basically, that those two different definitions, what I see as the definition of the thing and what you see as the definition of the thing, since they are not exactly matching, or they don't have, I don't know, 90% accuracy between them, or when you overlap them, it's necessary to rebuild everything so that we can get to understand why they didn't match, how can we make sure that they never again don't match, and finally, obviously, make them match. It's just boring. I feel like it's boring. I don't know. It's it's entertaining. It's alive. If nothing else, we have to have a life and we have to sustain it for all that we can live. But it isn't truly a fulfilling life. We could be pursuing so many more grandiose things. We could be interested in doing something that actually helps. We could be trying to allow for things to become better. So this is what I was trying to go with or to go for. We are not talking about leaving behind love or hate. It's just we need more honesty. We're not being honest. That's the main issue. We all like to live in a complacent state, and we all know that to some degree there is dissatisfaction. But we would rather avoid mentioning it at all than trying to acknowledge it. To try to be aware of it means to have to deal with all the issues of mentioning that indeed many people doesn't get to enjoy their whole life. Many people just like us might not have at all nice existences. Can we try to help them? Are we interested in helping them to begin with? And even more so, if we are asked if we're interested in them, can we actually say no? Can we actually express ourselves in regards to that? It's to some degree, I think it's perplexing, but I just think it's weird. Life is intriguing, not so much nowadays because I myself don't get to have a nice life, but rather because I just look around and unhappiness is not the result of something so completely unexplainable. There is this whole issue of saying, okay, yeah, maybe I check what you are telling me, or you give me your history, your previous history of life so far. You can quickly sum up everything that happened. And once you give me that, I can probably make sense as to why it is that you say, yeah, I don't get to enjoy being who I am, doing the things that I do, surrounding myself with the people that I do. It's not so possible to escape the responsibility in the sense of, yeah, many things I could have changed them, and I don't know. It's not to this level. It is already risky to say that. To become responsible for ourselves is to become aware that we were not responsible before. Even more, stunningly new concept. To some degree, even the youngest of the children are also responsible for themselves. Not important distinction before continuing. Not because I am trying to say that, oh yeah, yeah, you must care about yourself and you must care about what you are, what you do, and then you must be self-centered. No, 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 no. Only look out for yourself. No, it's just being anywhere. Understand who you are, and once you can do that, perhaps then try to understand someone else. If at least you have a solid self, you can deal a lot better with everything that is outside your own self. You can understand, you can make sense, you can get clearer explanations, you can get more clear comparisons. What you are to what this other thing is, this outside, this other person, this system in which you inhabit, which isn't you directly, which with what, yeah, which also doesn't mean that it doesn't have any power over you, but just the statement of, yeah, I have a system that rules over me. How does it work? How does it operate? How can I see that it makes me work also? All of those things are obtainable. All of those revelations are triggerable actually by yourselves, not just by an outsider, so to speak, but it's it's sometimes better to escape that level of responsibility, mostly because of what I said. Sadly, yeah, if I have to deal with the realization that what I am doing is not that nice, I will need to dismantle what I was already accustomed to do. If I have to accept that, yeah, maybe I suffer because of how much I have to try and fulfill someone else's desire, maybe I need to find out what fulfills me. And maybe I never did that before. And maybe I only know about this one method that, despite it being a little bit unhealthy, it can allow me to be happy. I have many examples of that sort of thing. This is being capable of following something that we can truly recognize as our interest. And even more, I mean, all of this is to some degree enclosed within the ideas of psychoanalysis. I guess I have been learning more than anything else about psychoanalysis lately, and I cannot just to make sure that I give the proper warnings, even if it is already late, um, about where things come from. Mostly there, and there is even more an important saying instead of that of trying to remember actually, and it's proven to be quite complicated. I think okay, along the lines of particularly within psychoanalysis, there is this. I would postulate it as an issue of how the desire is not the actual desire, but rather the infantile desire manifested, reshaped, re-signified through an adult cover slash explanation of the same childish desire. I wouldn't go as far as to that degree, but certainly even more. We are looking for honesty. We are looking for the realization of knowing what is it that we want. That level of also being aware that sometimes we say that we like things, we say that we want stuff, but if we had to stop, maybe not truly, maybe there are things that we don't actually want to have, maybe we have certain connections that we would have been a lot more pleased of not having, or by not having. It's it's not just complicated, it's the issue of I can say that I want things, I can try to make it look like I actually want them. If push comes to shove, in the hardest of the times, will I be willing to sacrifice myself for this thing that I say I like or not? That degree of honesty is lacking. And I wouldn't say it's bad exactly, but it's just sad that we cannot have anything like that. We do not see the necessity to have anything like that. I don't know. It's just we like to condense everything. We like to disregard all that could be something else, and we like to condense stuff too much. This whole habit of making things move faster, it's only making things worse in some to some degree. And I don't know. Eh, Also, what the fuck? Good morning, sun. It's like incredibly late. Supposedly around where you are, but I guess it's morning. I guess. I guess you woke up already, right? You slept during the night, right? Question mark. Ah, yeah. It's 6 a.m. Welcome. Then very good show. Very good that you woke up early. Uh, Amazing. Give it a clap. It's so fucking hard. But anyways, it happens. It happens. It can happen even more. We can work towards making sure that we wake up early. So, very good. So, ah, but yeah, I don't know. It's just very good to see you. Today, what we are talking about is, I guess, life. I don't, I don't really know how to frame it as. Um, it has been a very long stream already. I think it has only been to some degree 1 hour. Yeah, 1 hour, but at the same time, it has been one of those in which you just, let's say, you start rolling with the things that are all connected to one another, and it just doesn't stop at any point, man. It's very crazy, I guess, but such is being alive, I guess. It's just the expected part of being alive, of getting to see happening, to see things happening, to see possibilities existing, to see all the things that we have in front of us. And I guess my proposition is at least to try and do something about it. I feel like it's so sad. Something that I have been dealing with. I feel like it's incredibly depressing to hear people who has already given up to some degree. Hearing people who said, I could have gained great things. I could have gone farther away, but I just lacked proper interest on that. I just lacked proper desire to make that happen. I just lacked proper engagement with this one thing. I lacked a little bit more of that inner cinder that would have allowed me to keep going. And it's just trying to mention that. I think, if I have to be honest, I think suddenly we are starting to lose this battle of spirits. I There is something wonderful about what's the mental health crisis epidemic, that is, we might be close to, as economies have the recessions in which people start saving up, starts to save up before it money regains its proper value. We are in a moment in which we are, let's say, going through a recession of life itself. We are slowly starting to degrade what being alive means. We have reached a point in which it's normal for us to say, yeah, you know what? I don't want to deal with someone else. I don't want to deal with anything that has to deal with making someone else suffer through this whole existence. There will be others who are going to do that, so I don't need to deal with that myself. I carry no responsibility in making sure that this thing keeps working. This, and not tiny scale of myself, the community that I live in. No. The world. Let's make sure that the world keeps functioning in the long run. No, it has somehow very rapidly all become about just me and having what I like, and feeling this sense of pleasure from entertaining us, and not much more. And I don't know, it's unavoidable. It's not like, oh wow, why do we have this? Because they feel good. Because all of those things feel awesome. It's so good some days. Today, for example, I didn't want to be here so late. I actually had already found sort of things to say. This, the exquisite taste of getting to design more ideas and to make more schemes complete or closer to a better presentation. All of those tastes exist out there, and they are so much more overwhelming than the actual flavor of what we get to enjoy, that it's hard to actually do things. It's not like it's completely unexplainable why changing directions is hard. It's anybody who lives realizes that it's a completely sensible question to ask why it happens, but not without an explanation. It's not something that we can't at all explain. So I don't know. It's just if we have to decide on anything, maybe at least we should try to decide if only we are going to not participate in what is existence itself. How is it good for us to do that? And it just takes, I guess, personally speaking, it takes just too much self awareness, being capable of recognizing that maybe I am not being honest with myself takes too much time. I can rather stay in my life with the one that I am having right now, and that's it. If I committed a mistake, this is the wonderful thing. If I committed an error, I can accept that 20 years in the future, not right now. I don't need to deal with the responsibility of knowing that I could make things different. I could be a version of me that makes me feel happy. I can't just stay in the same place and slowly see things fail and I slowly see things very, very gently, very, very discreetly decompose. I do not need to assume that I can make things better because they are already good enough for me to enjoy them. That's sufficient enough for the state. Even more, I don't need to sacrifice my own happiness, nor even less try to work to work around what is my definition of happiness to see if maybe in trying to preserve what we have, not just for myself, but also for what I mentioned before, thinking about outside of the box of just my own existence. Maybe I can preserve what I like for others to also experience. Maybe I can try to make sure that not only I get to know about this very wonderful idea, this very wonderful band, this very wonderful game. I get oral tradition, sharing things, the importance of getting to share things. It's getting slowly lost more and more with time. Something wonderful that has been to share interests, not one common interest, to share the things that we can all say what I found lovely myself with others. The capacity to understand that it should be a natural process has slowly been getting more and more away from our hands. We have slowly reduced all of that to what I mentioned before. We are now only talking about common interests. We are looking for connecting points. And maybe then, if it happens, if we are completely sure that we're not going to be putting ourselves at risk, we might mention at all what are our personal interests in that sense. And I don't know, I do not think it's fulfilling enough. But in that way, it's seriously a lack of proper orientation, I guess. I wish it's going to be better, not because it is not as I said before good. At least we have something in there, but we could be trying stuff. I don't know. It's just puzzling, I guess. There are many questions in life. Getting to know the answer to any of them is complicated in that sense. But yeah, we are at least happy with knowing that we can continue. And I guess with the awareness that, yeah, maybe even if we fail, we get to fix it later on. At least that is also something. Who knows? But just complicated stuff, I guess. Recognizing issues, being capable of changing for the better, committing to the change and all of that. It's something that requires a lot of effort. And in some cases we really can't ask for that. We just don't have the energy for it. And suddenly I think we're moving more and more and more. It is a narrative of we are all tired. We have introduced so swiftly these concepts of tiredness, of lack of energy, or of ways of being incapable of acting because we lack things. There's many ways. Not. It's easy to reduce them to just excuses, but they are real. They are actual objects. They are actual problems. For example, something funny. It wasn't such a common thing to talk about depression before, because to some degree it wasn't such a common event. Nowadays we have, despite it not being the leading cause, one of them is that higher degrees of declared depression also come from the reality that, yeah, we all have more time with ourselves, we all have more time to deal with life rather than just react to it. And maybe I don't like what I am living, I don't like where I am. And that's an issue, that's a huge issue. Not to be capable of finding an answer for any of those questions. If we are asked something of that sort by our own self, or even worse, by someone else who is just knowing us. All of these things are slowly piling up. We might, I will say, continuing with a pessimist note, we might even be opening up futures of perpetually tired societies. It will become the norm, and the new average performance will be worse than ever before. There is something that I haven't fully explained. I remember having heard about a wonderful issue in educational systems since quite recently. This artificial intelligences and language learning machines have created new gaps within most educational systems because most questions require a basic reinterpretation and regurgitation of the information that is consumed by the student in order to demonstrate that they understand things. What happens sadly is also that if you ask any AI the same question, and perhaps if it were to be a necessity, you ask from the reply that you get to also make it as articulate as possible or as similarly as your speech is sounding possible, it can completely imitate the human qualities. We didn't design a system itself in which teaching allows for proper discovery of things. I think I mentioned it last time also. Sadly, we don't actually get to. So thank you for the follow. Actually, uh, happy cow. What? Happy cow? No problem. It's the followers alert. But yeah, welcome. Thank you for it also. And we got the thing. We're at 360. Wow. I don't know what to say. Anyways, uh, hmm, smart replacement of images for words. Yeah, I mean, uh, in a in a very, I guess, I don't know how it's really thought about it, but yeah, it's a very very funny thing to see that words and the signs associated with them get replaced in chat. So that's the main reason as to why they are like that. But anyway, I was quick rundown what I am talking about right now. Life, being alive, enjoying living, I guess. Ah, it could expose the limits of a person's abilities. Which thing? What? Or limits them? Huh? Might be not actually following what you are saying. I understand the sentence. Something could expose the limits. What are we talking about? What? Uh, sorry. Sorry for not getting it. I guess I it can happen. But individuals interpret and create personal visuals of various words subjectively. I mean, yeah. Okay, something funny. That's there is a very useful theory. It's called semiotics. That explains how we create subjective representations of every sign that we observe in life. Something funny that happens is unavoidably, because it is subjective, it becomes very much individual. So, to some degree, yeah, it that's the reality of how symbols work. What I see as a symbol might mean something for me that will not be the same thing for you. Unavoidably, when slight changes happen within the symbols that we use, misinterpretations become more and more recurrent because suddenly we don't get to have the same shared language, emotional tie, the time, the age. Perhaps other factors are play a role in how we utilize words. Yeah. My mic is off. My mic is off. What? Maybe maybe I am having a bad position. I don't know. Don't worry about it. I should be checking, I guess. Or Maybe I lacked. I don't know. Anyway. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, we love semantics here. For more information, please read. I don't know, yes, Pierce, Charles Pierce is the one that you should be looking for. Ah, what's what I was wrong for was this other guy, this other theory today, talking about just life. Yes, I don't know. It's I guess it's complicated to some degree. It takes time to properly explain any of that sort. So it's better to say that we're talking about life. Um, Please surprise? No, I'm not really asking anything. Don't worry. I'm just rapidly trying to explain what I was saying myself in the solitude of, of talking and seeing where the idea leads me to. I guess I haven't for the last extreme. But you know, words are also as readable as mine. Yeah, I mean, I do. The issue is it's crashes. Where I know you just arrived, so I don't want to make it hard for you. But certainly, if I were to use that function, my my PC explodes. Speech to text fucking kills the PC that I have. It's complicated. Really. Um, it's an issue that it's in process of being resolved. That's the white text in the bottom right corner expresses that sadly. At someday it will be fixable. Uh, You also fry your voice? No, no. I I wish to tell you why. I don't know yet. I at some point I got an issue, and I don't. I normally, if I talk like I usually do with other people, that hurts my voice more than if I talk in a comfortable level. So suddenly, yeah. I know. Suddenly, it's more of I don't know. I it will assume that I have to talk with a professional, and I don't have so that possibility. I assume it's something related to not what is it, quote unquote normal voice and being comfortable with your own voice or whatever. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. I suppose it's more of my natural voice, but I don't really think about it. If I can speak for hours, I would rather speak like this. If if that allows me to speak for hours instead of just trying to sound like I normally do, which somehow tires me out more. I oh yeah. Unavoidably it happens, yeah. But I don't. I just don't know why. I I guess it's one of the probably best explanation will be just trying to get comfortable with speaking a lot. Sadly, uh, as you can realize, there is nothing else here but me just talking. So if I have to talk a fucking lot, I will rather try to do it as in the best condition possible. Uh, am I okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Uh, it's a strain on your vocals. quite the opposite, actually. I mean, that's what I was trying to say. If I guide my voice, that hurts me more. My, I don't know. We are trying to talk about it. Like I know the explanation. I assume it's my natural voice. I guess. No idea. Mm, tell me my great. Tell you my greatest need. I don't know. My greatest need. Uh, what a fucking question, brother. I don't know. Probably. I don't know. If I had to be honest, okay, I have to. Honestly, happiness, but not in a personal level. I don't need to just be myself happy. I need everything else to be right, so to speak. That's what I would like the most, you know? For every single person that I know, maybe that's too much to ask to be as happy as they can, you know? That's human nature is human nature, and given the circumstances and using logic, money is a role here or time. No, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how much time we have all of us here, so I cannot really tell you. Yeah, yeah, I need more time. Maybe I have like, I don't know, 20 years in front of me, 40 years, 50. Maybe I have enough. And if I don't, I don't know either. And I would rather not know. But happiness in general, it's better. That's a lot more useful, you know? Uh, to improve the experience of time we do have. Yeah, I mean, unavoidably, let's say it in this way, it's not a lack of happiness because there is nothing that could make me happy. It's a lack of actions that will let me arrive to that happiness, and even more so, proper action to make everyone else's life as equally enjoyable as mine once I have ensured that mine is enjoyable enough. Can I actually make it happen? I can recognize it, but I cannot really make it become a. Are these answers or questions? If I say a question, rhetoric question, assume that it's a rhetoric question. If you hear that I keep going, I guess. But that's no, yeah. I'm telling in that sense. Just telling. Probably, if I move that a little bit slower, it will be more understandable. Hmm, I'm rational. I mean, well, I'm rational, I guess. I assume. Think, can I don't know, to some degree, okay, I will say this. To some degree, I think it's sort of insulting that I need to ask it, but what sort of definition of pragmatism are we using here? I know it's something that seems to be pragmatic, but maybe I'm not studying the same line. I remember something funny. I something that you get to experience by talking to many people. Some one time I got to talk with a guy who said, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm a very pragmatic person." They just were based on the scientific method, and they just were interested in knowing the truth of. Oh yeah, I I, I can base it on the evidence and nothing else. Not proper pragmatism, but I don't know. sometimes. At least it's better to believe that we are right. Who knows? But yeah, based based on what? What are you talking about? No, I said based on anything. Also, welcome, Sim. I hope you're well. I think I am based on my need to take a break. That's on what I'm based right now. I I I think I need to leave for 1 second. Let's say like that. And you know, anything up. Not well. What the fuck? What are you talking about? No, 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 no. Okay, clearly, it's not really meaningful sentence, but try to be well. Such an easy thing to do. Try to be well. Uh, Access to knowledge is the only way. Without knowledge, can you know anything up? Yeah, okay, that's like a fundamental philosophy question. Yeah, of can we know the things themselves? Um, can we be capable of observing the ideas, and can we be sure that the representations we get to have about them are the proper ones, or are we just subjected to the subjectivity only whatnot? I mean, I don't think we have found a proper answer yet. And sadly, we can't even less believe that we're going to get the proper answer here. I can give you so far the rundown on what at least I have studied, but I don't think there is a proper answer so far. Hmm. You're so based on what? Based on objective rationality? Wow, thank you. It means it means something. No idea. Uh, but yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I said it before. Give me like 1 second. I'll take a tiny break. After that, we will be back. And I should stop drinking fucking water. Anyway, like fucking guys. Uh, welcome, welcome back. Good evening. Also, ah, I'm. I guess yeah. I saw what you said. Let's actually clarify. I can. It's a mistake by my part. I should be trying with some more effort to enunciate properly things. Also, something funny, I am ESL. I learned how to get rid of mostly of my ESL accent. I don't do it neither, so don't worry about anything. It's literally all my fault. In this case, it's my issue. Brain noddlers targeted apparently with others are soft and confident yet and willing to live with the reality of access to what you pursue for the most part. Calm and close is your greatness. So, also, being objective is objective. It's a joke. I don't know if it is a joke. I think it's true. But that's that's the truth, I guess. That sadly, no matter how much we try to be objective, we end up giving away that we are always based on our subjectivity of what we understand as objective. The closer we get even to an objective definition of objectiveness, the closer we are to just surrounding ourselves with subjective explanations of the world, sadly. So that's how things work in that sense. Not because they are capable of being worked around, but rather because talking with other people makes it so that we will unavoidably have issues. We will unavoidably have to deal with issues of, yeah, I cannot express anything if I am objective. And if I want to take any stance, objectiveness doesn't allow for that. I mean, even most moral judgments are not truly objective. You can try to make them pass as objective or whatever you want, but they are not objective. So, reality is, I don't know, 90% of reality is subjectivity transformed or explained through different filters to make it look like not something so subjective, but all of that is still just internal excuses. Hmm. Without objectivity, subjectivity has no big bearing of self. What? No bearing of self. There is lower or zero self-reference. I mean, okay, yeah, yeah. I get what you mean. Yeah, I mean, okay, it's a good statement. It's an statement, unavoidably, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we get to part from the subjectivity that we have just because we know that there are objective things out there. I mean, so far also, I think it should be, if we're trying to talk about that, proper side note is we believe that we know things in an objective level. We are even in that level unaware if it is truly objective or if we are all just sort of existing within the same delusion, so to speak. So I wouldn't be so sure that we know what is objectivity. Without the reference point, how objectivity exists without the reference point of subjectivity? I mean, isn't it like there is a proper explanation? No, 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 no. Not all things are a delusion. I wouldn't say so. I mean, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so. In that sense, I don't like the card, but at the same time, I like that, yeah. What we get to experience. Um, what we get to experience is always just the processes of our brain. That's also something that you can read on early stages of psychology when it was still intermingled with anatomy and physiology and whatnot. The way in which we get to interpret the world is only through the mental faculties and the inner works of the consciousness, something that we have not been capable of, so to speak, placing in any one particular area of the mind. The issue is that there is no way of representing the world without the brain, but also we don't know how to properly explain what consciousness is because everyone seems to some degree have it. Um, so, what we can say at least is all of that passes through this filter that is the mind or the consciousness or however you want to call it. You can bring up examples of people who lives only unconsciously or preconsciously or whatever. At least we have the mind, and all of that informs the experiences that we get to have, and we believe that we know things. That's basic consciousness. Perhaps is the wrong concept. Perhaps I wouldn't say it's the right one. We just talk. Okay, it's a that point is more of a discussion on semantics, I guess. This whole thing of we're conscious, but are we actually conscious? I mean, I can tell you that I am conscious. I am conscious of what I need to be doing. Maybe not, but I am also conscious. What's the meaning of consciousness? Uh, what's the semantic definition that I am using to define consciousness? All of that depends. But yeah, it's. I do have to reckon. Maybe it's the wrong concept. Maybe. Anyway, don't worry about it. I mean, that's, I guess, the point of discussing stuff. Minimally, we're able to see consciousness, therefore, that act itself makes us conscious. Uh, I mean, I don't know if it makes us conscious. I guess that's more along the lines of self aware. I remember something funny that I saw some days ago was there is a study that was performed in rats. You can write it on Google. You will write a better explanation than what I can say. But it's an study on how animals seem to possess actually lower levels of consciousness related to empathy and such. Um, nah, it I wish things like on rocks, but no. I am talking about consciousness of other beings, of other living beings. Uh, I mean, I am not really suggesting anything. There is something also funny about how we could say somewhat, may depending on where you are standing from. Yeah, basically that everything is to some degree conformed of the most fundamental parts of life. The what is it? The 12 particles of life or something like that are all present around the world. Unless you're made of antimatter or something of that sort, you can't really not be alive, supposedly based on your molecular composition and whatnot. Maybe, but I don't, I don't know. It sounds perhaps we already used the word delusion, perhaps too delusional. So I wouldn't say it. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically, that's certainly of how I don't remember the name under which I learned about it, but it's something along the lines of I think atomism is not the proper word. Something along those lines. How down to the atom there is life or something like that. Like, I mean, one of the older theories, for example, postulates something that if we sum up the breakfast club, so which postulate? Which what I was saying? I don't know. I forgot. Sorry. I think the postulate was something along the lines of even in the atoms there are still living beings that what is it regulate things, which makes the possibility of enjoying them or not enjoying them as in enjoyable, but rather ensuring that they keep their order. That sort of idea of how there seems to be life at all levels, not just the pre-atomic, the atomic, and the molecular ones, which do not seem to truly be life possessing ones. That whole the 12 stages of life, basic biological definition, how supposedly even in the most basic fundamental level of protons or whatnot, there are somehow things that seem to be alive. That, for example, I I remember something along the lines of I mean I am citing stuff that I don't really even remember because I saw it as very schizophrenic. Sorry, I guess that was the name. I don't remember. Something about how at the level of protons and neutrons and such, we already have possibly living beings because there are no other possible ways to explain life since the atoms themselves cannot truly keep themselves together just by the strong and weak nuclear forces. So there must be a tier the lacking unexplained assistant in this whole process. How, I mean, as far as I can remember, it was something related to this whole theory of how we sort of live in a simulation, basically. How, because we live in a simulation, the way in which we are created is not by ourselves, but rather by everything else that informs the way in which we are. And for example, DNA was a proper design because it shows that we are not ourselves, where these lines of code that we have slowly started to crack to understand what it is. Um, Not a whole being, by the way, we define being. It's imagination until it's fact. Yeah, 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 yeah. Unavoidably. Um, Sabine Rosenfeld? I literally never heard of that person. I will, at some point, reach them. Uh, More so if they are philosophy. Don't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Uh, it happens, yes. But I mean, I guess I would say it along the lines of it's imagination until it's fact. Yeah, I we can't really know. So far, we don't possess even proper technology to see anything at the level of protons. So unavoidably, it's all imagination. Supposedly, for example, what I remember is on that same theory or that counter argument to the theory Supposedly, antimatter is what can explain the emptiness that exists within things and such. It's complicated. Anyway, I live in imagination land at least 95% of the time, if I can help it. As a mortal being, why wouldn't I? It's irrational. Yeah? I mean, I don't know. Uh, Based on my explanation, I would assume I live. No, yeah, yeah. I assume I live most of the time. You are complicated. I am complicated. Sorry. I like to overcomplicate stuff. That's, I guess, you're a tatter. Yeah, perhaps. I guess, I don't know. Uh, Perhaps, yeah, no idea. But, I mean, taking it from the stance of, yeah, everything else that I experience comes through my senses. I would say probably I live 100% living on the land of the imagination. For example, I couldn't be completely sure that what we are experiencing is truly real. Maybe you and me can say that it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen at all. Maybe existence itself is not real. Who knows? At that level, we are still not so sure. So we'll rather leave that one behind. Communication is magic. Yeah. I have something that I have to read myself because I found a guy who wrote it before, but I say it myself. If you're interested in that, you should read out semiotics. Um, there's no rational reason to doubt at this point, to think that it's not real until you have evidence. What? You, you don't need evidence? I don't know, man. I don't know. I cannot be sure about the reality. I need to be. I need an evidence. Small telges? I wouldn't say so. But no. I was going to talk about semiotics more than anything else. The beginning of semiotics. Peers and Saussure, those people. They start from the beginning. Those are very much useful. Those are very much well received. Yeah, wait, calm down, calm down. Let me. I'm taking my time to read this. Sorry, sorry for not instantly nuking the what I fail. You experience what you experience until you have evidence that what you experience isn't real. To be rational, you must accept it is real. Otherwise, you're not rational. I mean, yeah, I don't assume I'm rational. I don't. Perhaps that's where we're having a misunderstanding. I don't say I'm rational. I am a rational creature. That's how much I can say. Yeah, I am a rational creature, as any other human being is. Am I rational myself? I don't know, man. I I wouldn't say so. I like too much the subjectivity of the self, so I wouldn't describe myself as somebody rational. If something can be explained through the personal experiences rather than the objective reality, that might as well be the route that I will be taking 99% of the time, you know? Even more so because the possibility of realizing when something through this subjective realm happens on the life of somebody, or even more when what we experience through our own subjectivity alters the objective world of the rest, all of that is interesting. And it's more fulfilling, at least for me, than the completely objective negative reality. What I was trying to say before. We have explanations for things that seem objective. Are they? I don't think so. Therefore, your experience, memory, ideas, environment, physics, etc., all contribute to your reality. And until you see or know something that counters all of this evidence, reality is what it is. It's not rational to doubt it. You can split in the eye if you find value in doing so. Yeah. I mean, una voi, Daria. I'm not going to fight on the semantics of, oh wow, yeah, we have basic laws of the universe. I guess what I can say is, so far they seem to be consistent enough so that we can confirm they are true, but I cannot ensure. For example, okay, are you into literature? Are you into definitions or not semantics? Wait about it. Hear about this. Have you read Liu Cixin? Have you read that guy? What's the three-body problem? That's his series. There is something wonderful because there is a main concept that happens. Maybe it's a spoiler if you never saw it. Maybe you will never saw it. So I can spoil it without any problem. Humans interact with another species. What results from that interaction is that we might not be really experiencing the objective explanations of the world, or to the curvature of the body. No. Yes, but it's not about that. It's about the three-body problem is the name of the series. It's about how humans find aliens. What they find later on, after having interacted a lot, is the aliens understood some fundamental qualities of reality that might seem for us like warping reality itself. So we are not truly sure that the laws of physics, for example, are as 100% unavoidable as they are. We are so far capable of saying that they are the way in which we see them to be universal because we have not found a way in which we can alter them, which will also be a lie. There are certain things that happen within physics that alter the way in which it works based on the environment and whatnot. Like, I don't know, moving train. Is it a theory or is it an explanation? I don't remember. All of that stuff. Basically, we have the knowledge about science, but it is all science still. We're not completely sure in that sense if that's the universal stuff. Like for example, we have designed mathematics as a way of going about the world so far, about existence. Okay, is that the best way in which we can understand numbers? So far, it is. Is it objectively the best one? We don't have the answer for that. At least I cannot give you the best answer. It is so far the best one, but it doesn't mean that it is in general or it is the potentially best one we could ever have. That's the whole argument, I guess. But yeah, that's why I say also maybe it lies more in the semantics of how we conceive what is real. Because it's real as insofar that there has been nothing more that could probably disprove it. Like, what is it? There is this interest in always higher levels of schematization of theories, being capable of add layers of complexity to whichever is it that we experience. Not because we experience it better, but rather because the more we can explain, the more we can potentially experience, you know? Too many layers to have value. Yeah, unavoidably, but the tendency towards complexity that scientific theories possess, that whole idea of we need a governing is it cosmological explanation, something like that? I think it is. And it's complicated to get to that point. We can say that we might have something like that. We so far don't possess the methods to comprobate anything of that sort. Any statement of this sort can only be trusted as long as we understand that it might be falsifiable, you know? What's the argument we require a unified theory? Is there value in acquiring this objective? What's the argument? I mean, as far as I understand it, supposedly because possessing an unified theory will allow for a better explanation of everything else that follows. Um, do you use other networks? Yeah. Let me give me like half a second because there is. If not, I hate fucking chat. There we go. Socials. Ah, the bot doesn't fucking work, I love it. You scroll down, you will find a part that says about me. In there, you will find links. I wanted to give them to you, but we have a bot that doesn't fucking work. So, basically, yeah, I have other socials. What would be the better explanation give us? What would the better explanation give us as a species? Yeah, that was what I was trying to go for. Possessing a better explanation for things allows not a better explanation. A unified theory will allow for the capacity to explain everything else that we know inside of reality. In a sense, a unified theory aims to be capable of explaining reality itself. The issue is certainly we haven't even come close to that. And so far it also seems like more of an egoistic desire than a true interest. It's just which science can propose the most unifying theory so far. It, it's not a true interest. In many cases, it's more of a subjective desire expressed through an objective altruistic method, but with not those intentions truly. It's just, oh wow, yeah. Maybe mathematics is better than physics, or maybe uh, think that just because we can explain reality, the beneficial or positive outcome is welcomed. Exactly, it's egotistic things. Yeah, I mean, that's that. It doesn't mean most cases is that. The original argument is, yeah, explain reality. But it has been tried so many times. At this point, anybody who says, oh yeah, I will find the unifying theory is just trying to make a name for themselves, not much more. But who knows? Exactly, who knows? Anyway, anyway, I believe it's acceptable to be never seen. What? I understand the sentence. Never be seen about what? As a blade of grass? 100% be invisible? In society? In the universe? Be seen in which level? As a human being? What are we talking about? Never be seen by the world, by the people, by the sun. I understand. I understand the other two. By the sun? What are we talking about? By Platonic concept of the cave and whatnot? I don't know. I mean, it's. I wouldn't say it's a real issue. It's just something complicated that one should be willing to handle. If not, unavoidably, we have the possibility of not dealing with anything similar to fame and with similar to very, very small cigarette. Yeah. Um, we possess the possibility to stay in the anonymity to some degree and not do things that will make put us in the spotlight in many ways. But it's in some cases it's useful, I guess. That's the only thing I can say properly about it. I mean, it doesn't mean that I do not agree with it. I think it's better to stay hidden as much as one can. One exposes themselves to more risks if we decide to embark on this adventure of, well, yeah, I will expose myself to the world, maybe even more, implying that we are talking about everything that we mentioned before. Trying to say anything of value so presupposes that you will get counter arguments from every single direction, and sometimes you don't want that, even more if you end up being wrong. There's much strength in navigating the waves of the universe, right? Especially if you can do so silently. I mean, okay, I can agree to some degree, but to some other, I wouldn't say the whole universe is explorable just by one person. There are many, I guess, I don't know, from the individual psyche, you can resolve things and we can get to a better understanding about ourselves and at the best the system in which we decide to enclose the explanations that we want to utilize about other people. But the whole world is not accessible just through the singularity of the person. And neither it does mean that if we become one unified consciousness, we will get access to everything. But I guess probably it's one of those questions in which there is no proper way to go about it. Assuming that there might be a way to obtain, what is it? It's not omnipresence. The vision and memory, experience and time. I mean, vision. I will unavoidably say no because you're hearing me, so this is not related to vision at all. Through the senses, I guess. Yeah. Memory, yeah. Experience. I mean, that's memory. So yeah. And time. Also, we don't have infinite time in life, so we don't get to experience the wholeness of reality. Sadly, I mean, I am not going to be here for when the sun explodes, for example. Thankfully so, but play the edge of infinity. Ah, ah. So, but anyways, um, I don't know what else to say myself. Yeah, but your argument implies that experience the wholeness of reality is the ultimate objective, which is not proven to be useful or factual yet. I mean, it, unavoidably, but also, it wasn't me who said the whole world is accessible through vision and memory, comma, experience and time. So, I don't know, brother. Yeah, it's true. That's the argument that was being made, but it wasn't mine. Uh, do you get the hint? Maybe you're not arguing with me, man. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Who says it's better to know the entire universe? Who has evidence that being the all-knowing is more valuable, perhaps? Being a small nutset is good enough? Uh, yeah, unavoidably. This whole idea of What is it? I don't remember which one of them. There are some ancient philosophers that talk about it in sort of ways to also try to talk about the divinity and whatnot. About how one to be an all-knowing, no, to disprove the existence of an all-knowing creature, you must be also an all-knowing creature and whatnot. And yeah, I in that same level, I cannot really tell you what's better if being all-knowing or not. I I am not all-knowing, so sadly, I guess any stance that I will decide to take on that might just be from the subjectivity. Once again, I cannot really properly articulate anything. It's all just justifications from a not all knowing entity, from a limited entity. Trying to discuss something like, for example, realities. We know that time exists. We don't possess control over time, also. So, is it good that we move towards time in a linear form? Maybe. Maybe it would be better if we could do something different, but at the same time, we can't. So, who knows? I feel small amounts of knowing. Maybe it's better going back to the place I was before I was born, after I die. Maybe. I mean, I assume. Okay, this this is related to names. Very bad at names. There is something I think it was called Temaseutic or something like that. I don't remember even which one of them. I think it was Socrates. That talk about returning from the place of the ideas and whatnot to the world of ideas. Is it good? I assume I don't know. I am not there. Once again, I could say is at least we have this. So I will not propose. Yeah, you know what? Maybe it is better to be there. So let's do our best to get there as fast as possible. In colloquial terms, let speed run reaching the world of ideas. No, I don't think that. I wouldn't say that. Uh, but maybe it feels better. Maybe it doesn't. I guess what's more important is at least trying to make sure that what we get to have in this land is as positive, not as enjoyable, as positive as possible in terms of being useful. That's I guess my final goal. Yeah, I don't really stand here to talk about enjoyment. I'm not one for enjoyment, so I'm more for purpose and positivity and whatnot in that sense of the word. Yes. Commands? Wait. Thank you, Streambot. No, Stream Elements. Which one of them is the fucking command that I am looking for? Let me let me look for it. I can find. Let me see. Was it? I think it was links. Let me check. Let me check. Give me like half a second. The bot is working for 1 second. Discord, YouTube, links. It was links. What the fuck did I use? Socials. I don't have socials. Sorry. I'm uh, very bad with this. Despite being here for so long, it's literally completely unexcusable. But can ignore it. Here you go, brother. And there it is. Links to everything in Linktree. Is Linktree good? No idea. I just know people uses it, so we replicate. What is it? Repetition. What's cycles or something like that? Copying. I don't remember the proper title of the stuff. Anyway, um, Mr. Or is it bad to say? I don't know. It's too much of a complicated thing to say. Uh, if there are no more questions for today, let's say like that. I assume I will be done. I perhaps I ran out of what I was trying to say before. So that's that will be it for today. I guess I don't know. Uh, Assuming, implying. So yeah, uh, that has been it. I mean, wow. We at least we got to be here for like a little while, so that's more than good enough. I assume that's more than positive. That's better than nothing. So that's surely something. Uh, anyway, what are we doing next time? I was thinking, despite what I said the last time, of sort of being angry about it, I also do readings. I will try to continue that. I will try to continue reading this one book called the Mahabharata. So yeah, that's probably what will happen. I don't know in like how long? Uh, Tomorrow, I guess. No excuse for tomorrow. So yeah, probably tomorrow. If not, anyway, we will see each other when it's possible. Hmm. Yeah. You're not being direct. Being direct about what? I'm not being direct about what are you talking about? What do you want to be direct? What? I might not be being direct. I guess. I don't know. Uh, Probably. Are we direct? What do you? What do you? What do you think about overflowing mastication from Sangian psychology? You must always be direct. Ah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would say, okay, I understand it. And I remember the archetypes. I don't think. I mean, I don't even know why you're asking about it, but I wouldn't classify myself as that. I don't see the true point in being direct in that sense. I know I directness is always useful, more so. What's Stan has a particular explanation for it along the lines of I think it is directness is what allows to break through different masks or different filters of the personalities or the identities of everybody. Because when something is properly shaped as the most purest form that it can have, then both sides get to identify it and deal with it in the sense of I think he doesn't talk about symbolic. I don't remember which terminology he uses, but directness is useful. But at the same time, I don't really know what I am not being direct about. So I wish I could help you. No idea. Sometimes I might be at fault, but like a little kid, you must tell me what's the mistake that I am committing if you want me to fix it. Yes. Wise but overreaches, drowns others in knowledge, manipulates instead of mentors, hoards power or pleasure. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Basically, it's like what in most cases becomes the sort of evil magician the evil embodiment of the magician and whatnot, because there is the lack of responsibility. It's also not overflowing, but uh, childish or something like that. I think it's another name, because it's not a proper magician in reality, because it doesn't understand what it's doing. And when he believes that he does, the reality is they are only shaping things in a way in which they leave responsibility always outside of their hands. So, something like that, I think it was. One second, I don't remember. I, I haven't studied Zhang properly, so I should probably shut up. That's that's my best guess. The four corresponding archetypes: magician, warrior, king, and lover. What? Four? You studied four? There aren't like 12? Isn't it like you only know about four? Or the way in which you learn was uh, king and lower archetypes. There's an unknown count? Yeah, yeah. So supposedly, I mean, they represent the way in which I remember the archetypes is there are different alignments, and all of them could be at play in any person at different intensities. What matters is being capable of understanding as many as we can of them. What Song talks about from the mythological aspects of the representation of the psyche, as the more we can possess different, what was it, archetypes, the more we can represent the personality of the real person. I mean, anyway, anyway, uh, completely anyway. The point was, don't worry, don't worry about it. Nice, I know. Uh, Fluxus physics, you recover your psychology? Yeah, I said the opposite. True statement. Very good. This sentence is logical. I don't know. Ah, also, I have been like an. Let me check through here. I swear to God, I hate Twitch so fucking much some days. Can we work Twitch? Are you going to let me see? Okay, it works. Thank you very much. Anyway, so I was going to say, I don't know. As I was trying to say before Twitch decided to not work, I have nothing else to really say myself. So, unless there's something else, I guess that's it for tonight. I assume. Also, I don't know if I should even like bother saying anything at all, but maybe there will there will be no more. Uh, what is it? Goals in terms of followers. This last one was mostly for the symbolic value of getting to fulfill instead of trolling like the last time with, oh yeah, you know what? Let's make it 9,000. No, what is it? It's like 9 billion. 99 billion, 999,999,999. No, it's meeting unmet needs. Unmet needs? What? Uh, anyway, Thanks for everything. It has been a wonderful day, and also Arkia is live, so we're going to raid there. I should going to miss the raid as always. We I missed 2 hours of potato. Yeah, sadly. Life is about being fulfilled. Our particles wants to be the best particles they can be, meeting unmet needs. Yeah, in that sense, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I also, I would say it like this: the way in which we can conceive it is like that. In some cases, if you cannot even reach that conclusion, you cannot truly say that life is about being fulfilled. It just unavoidably, you can still say, "Oh, well, yeah, but I am having the need of not suffering, so I need to fulfill that need." To then move up in the ladder of awareness and realize that everything is needs. In what is it? The Buddhist ideology of how stuff works. Of yeah, I also sorry, welcome flower. Sorry, but on this whole Buddhist idea of like, what was it? The whole world is pain or suffering. I think it was the same thing of everything is needs. To some degree, everything is needs. I mean, we have the needs of understanding what needs we have to be capable of fulfilling them. True, but at the same time, everything can fall under that category. It doesn't mean that it's exactly correct to call them that. I guess I wouldn't say so. Suffering is necessary. I wouldn't. I wouldn't be that bold. Suffering is useful so far, and we have allowed it to happen. Suffering isn't truly necessary. I wouldn't say it's an obligation to experience suffering at least. It serves if you in different processes of life suffering is required. There could be a life in which suffering could be completely out of the equation, so to speak. So far, we haven't gotten to an stage in which we can avoid suffering. So we can only say that it's useful as we have to bear with it. Meanwhile, is the most efficient option nature determined for what? I don't know. I don't see people being happy because they are suffering. The most efficient the most efficient option that the nature has found for me is something more along the lines of joy. Everything that you seem to find joy. I mean, you already mentioned psychology, so I will assume that to some degree you have awareness of uh, negative reinforcement works a lot less than positive reinforcement. What makes you feel good is a lot more effective than what makes you feel bad. I mean that's like incredibly old psychology. I think it was who was it? Skinner who demonstrated that positive reinforcements affect you a lot more than any kind of negative ones. The avoidance of suffering increases the suffering, indicating the being in suffering is inefficient. Therefore, the universe raises them quick. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. I will say, I, yeah, I don't think it's a commonly used word, but it becomes the avoidance of suffering in the sense of the paranoia towards suffering that makes these beings reach that point of destruction, because at some point one can become paranoid about suffering to the degree to which, yeah, that's that's more of a sensible thing, yeah. I wouldn't say what I say. I wouldn't say it's necessary. It's just useful to accept that it exists so far, but it's not necessary. I mean, I don't know, something about having children and telling them, oh yeah, you know what, the world is that's fucking depressing, brother. I wouldn't tell that to my children. I don't need them to deal with that. If they reach that conclusion, it will be through themselves, not through a fucking old guy who sits down and says, you know what, the world is suffering, everything you know is suffering, so you better learn to deal with it, or you will get killed by suffering and the avoidance of. I wouldn't say it. Yeah. This. What was it? There was like a proper expression of like the world sucks. Everything is so bad. You should try to avoid having as many bad experiences as you can, but it will always be bad. Like, what is it? Cynical attitude towards life is not that useful. I I assume personally. Sorry if I'm wrong. You can be free and suffer. What? What are you saying, man? What are you saying? Are we a depreciator or an appreciator kind of people? Uh, you're asking me, I guess. I wouldn't say I appreciate the stuff. I guess I am a depreciator. I guess I don't know. I I like yeah. I like my coffee a little bit nihilistic. So it's a genre of yeah. Sorry. My bad. uh, the right side. Oh, you little naive kid. What's the point of making things seem worse for others? No, yeah, okay. That makes sense at that level, but I mean, I don't know. Isn't being so positive about this stuff? Okay, yeah. There is this guy called Victor Franklin. He says something very interesting. Optimistic people end up being the most realistic, but at the same time, I don't know. I think that if you cannot realize how bad things can be, sometimes you forget how things could be. So, there's proper doses of acknowledging the existence of one within another. I appreciate circumstances. I doubt where I shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I had to say anything, I feel like philosophy leads most people towards that. Ali, somehow, it's too much of a hyper vigilance towards everything. So there is no true way of being sure about most stuff. At least in the present levels of philosophy. So if you ever have to read someone else, if you ever have to go through the texts of the classics and whatnot, you might as well also end up reaching that common point of depreciation and whatnot. I don't think it's pessimistic people get eaten by the lion last. What? By the lion. Jesus Christ, the scientismo. So true. Best comment. The value of the classics doesn't equate with the value to open society in material terms today. Why give them so much credence? Well, I mean that's a sort of complicated argument. As far as I understand it, most of it has come to do with they instill themselves as classics because the norm made it so that they are classics. They are not classics due to their usefulness, but rather they became classics due to how dark they are. They have always been. How quote unquote relevant, just how much societies themselves are unwilling to let them go. I mean, for example, something that I learned. Yeah, yeah. There is Chomsky. He has his linguistics theory that has been already even disproven. But we are. I go to school. We are learning Chomsky theory on language and psycholinguistics and whatnot. We are not here learning and interacting and seeing any of the new wave stuff. We're only with the classic because he was more important than those who later on counter his argument, disprove his argument. So who knows? Mostly that's the explanation. Classics are important because they have always been. So it's harder to assimilate something new. He added language. No, yeah, I mean, I am not saying that it isn't important. Don't don't get me wrong, but but what he proposed as the okay, bear with me for a second. There is this one subject that I have to study called psycholinguistics. Instead of that, we focus out mostly on the development of the inner dialogue within the children. Okay, there is an issue. When we talk about the inner dialogue, the most predominant theory that we utilize is the one from Chomsky. And the issue is that he assumed there are these things called, firstly, I think is the universal grammar, which he later on re-elaborated into mm, something related to computers or the universal program. I don't remember, and three different iterations try to patch up the same thing. In reality, the children doesn't need to learn things just in one way, and that's it. The malleability of the brain is what allows any kind of infant to process languages and to be capable of assimilating them into their own talked language. That's why it's even possible for children to possess multiple languages once they reach the stages of that. Sounds Kantian? Yeah, yeah, yeah. He the approach that is had at least in universities is mostly Kantian, certainly. I mean, we have to read Kant. Ah, here in the States? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The inherent, what is it? The inherent qualities and the inherent capacities of the human being and whatnot. All of that is interesting, but at the same time, uh, no, the intrinsic qualities of all humans. For example, some people, no, all people access language because they could do so. Those who didn't, it's because they never did so. No, most of those who didn't did not get to develop that just because they were not stimulated at the proper times. That's it. Not that we didn't get to develop language just because didn't we didn't come with the basic code in our blood or something like that. We never know things in themselves. Phenomena, yeah, we don't know how they appear to us. Phenomena through space, time, and categories of time. Yeah, I mean that's I guess to higher degree what's psycholinguistics about it itself, how we get to understand the things that we get. I don't remember. I at this point I sound like a, what is it, like a broken record saying it, but it's because I actually am like incredibly bad with it. There is another author that I had to read. I think it was Vygotsky. I think it was him. Uh, Talks about how is it that we get to know what we know. He develops a whole system trying to answer that question. And yeah, it's very much also related to it. We only have the knowledge of things through everything else that we can experience. What we don't experience is not something that we know in any way. Psycholinguistic organization iconic links language with cognition, how we process, produce, and understand words, reveals how we think, learn, and remember. Yeah, yeah. Basically. How that's also why I if you understand what I mentioned before, semiotics, you understand psycholinguistics for the most part. It also has to deal with some, for example, processes of how, with psycholinguistics, you get to understand the way in which information, not information itself, new ideas get integrated within the mind and get properly assembled into these whole theories that you possess inside of your brain. It to some degree it also tries, still carrying some of the Freudian tradition, tries to bring some physical aspects onto the realm of the mind. For example, it is known that instead of the apparatus of cognition, the frontal lobe is associated, I think it was, with memory, and the left side of the brain is associated with the processing of sentences and whatnot. It's 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 a mess. In reality, if you try to learn about psycholinguistics, it's a mess. It's incredibly messy. Anyways, uh, but yeah, you're welcome for the free info. I guess I don't know. I don't know. At this point, I have said like 20 more times that I will be leaving because I have no more to say. Any other question? Sorry, sorry. I mean, it sounds condescending, so I don't know. Uh, I guess final lesson. Let read Emil Cioran. Read that guy. Don't read about anything else. Read Emil Cioran. If you like reading, read that guy. Uh, Probably I have heard about people who maybe don't. Maybe if you're not in a good mental place, no, don't read him. But if you are, please read Cioran. Thank you. What's the name? Emile Cioran or Emil, something like that. Anyway, he he he's complicated. I quite the name. He's French. What, you don't like French people? What's your problem? You should lie. You should read Science Nerd. What are you talking about? You should read. Um, here. That's what you should read. Flower. But you're too positive. Read Sioran. I don't personal recommendation. Don't read Sioran Flower. Don't read Sioran. Don't read Sioran. Don't read Nietzsche. Don't read them. Do yourself a favor and don't read them. Don't read Schopenhauer either. Don't read them. Also said, bones are the greatest electron everyone knows. Yeah, I said names. I didn't say do not read. Don't read some particular people. Don't read Sioran. Anyway, is Arkia still alive? I checked like one read 1 hour ago. Maybe he like imploded. I don't know. Let me check. Is this guy still alive? Arkaya Basil? Opening new page. Yeah, I admit to that. No, he isn't alive. I stream for longer than Arkaya. I want to fucking. I hate it here. I fucking hate it here. There is no Arkaya to play. I wanted to like him. Oh. Anyway, we. It can happen. Fucking. I miss Arkaya already. Missed opportunity. Talk about a missed opportunity. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. You know what? Let me see. There should be people are always like. I mean, it's Thursday, Wednesday. People are for sure live, so there must be someone. The question is who. Uh, it's always the same question. Alastor, perhaps. Makes sense. Makes? No. This guy, because I think that I haven't gotten the chance to play him in like a while, so at least him. That would be a good choice. Let me. Anyway. Raid. Channel. As always, thanks for everything. It has been like a wonderful opportunity. Whenever, probably tomorrow, whenever we get to be back here, we will be back here. No idea when, but that's not truly important. What matters is take care, stay hydrated, stay hopeful, read something, I guess. Read Sioran, please. And yeah, have a wonderful evening, night, everything. I don't know. That's it from me. Yes. Also, yeah, no, nothing else. Now I am here sitting at the PC and I need to hit the end stream. I hear it here. What?